Hey everyone, this is Craig Durr, practice lead from the Futurum group, and we are here live at Enterprise Connect.
Now this is one of the premier events for communications and contact center solutions and technologies. And I'm very excited to introduce to you Albert Kooiman, Senior Director from Microsoft, and we're going to talk a little bit about some of the keynote announcements that they made here today at this event. Albert, how you doing?
Doing very well. Glad to be here.
Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. Now, there was a lot that went on stage. Nicole went over a lot of things, but I want to really get into something that I'm very passionate about, and that's the shared spaces. When we talk about creating these collaboration environments or communication environments, Microsoft Teams Rooms comes to mind for a lot of people right now. Let's talk about what was announced around Microsoft Teams Room here. There was a lot of specific features, but I think it rolls up to a bigger story that you want to share.
Well, our big story at this point in time is AI.
Yeah.
Right. So the meeting room is one of those central places in which you actually get all this content that the AI can work with. Mm-hmm. So one of the key things that we announced is, apart from being able to just record the meeting, even if you're in the meeting room where typically it was the meeting room said this or the meeting room said that,
right,
we are now able to identify if people choose to enroll, because this is still a voluntary action that they need to do. We are able to identify who was speaking. So we do the speaker identification. We do that on the basis of their voice enrollment that we have in the Teams client. And at that moment in time that you then no longer have this meeting room says, but Albert says, Greg says, you are actually able to process that data later on.
Right.
So you can actually, in the AI, in Teams client, you can ask, hey, what was this meeting about? Was there anything discussed about me? How did Albert feel about this meeting?
Right.
And then it says, well, I do not know what Albert felt, right? So it's like,
well,
because there are a few things that he said that were very positive, but then there was this long list of, and I'm not, of course.
But the attribution is very important. So not only is it working with your camera feature in Teleframe, where visibly I can see this is Albert speaking, but now you're talking about going to the transcript function and then that post-meeting function as well too, right?
Correct, because meeting in our thinking is not a point in time. It is a life cycle, right? So you start preparing the content. Mm-hmm. And there we showed some features. Nicole spoke about like, hey, let's prepare the agenda. And because we have all this content already, we know roughly what are the topics. If you have this constellation of people
right,
that you want to talk about, and it will do suggestions. And of course, the AI, you can steer it in the right way. You have heard about AI prompt editing and so on, right?
Yeah.
So you can say, Nicole showed like, let's not overdo it, but let's do it a little bit longer. And those type of things are all possible. That's the pre-meeting. Then you have the actual meeting where I spoke about being able to identify who said what and being able to transcribe it. Being able also in the summaries of the meeting, like I have 3 meetings I can choose from at any point in time in the meeting. Not that I try to pretend that I'm very important, but
right,
there's a lot of meetings that I miss. And now I can go into the recording and I can quickly click like, when did my boss say something? Mm-hmm. And I just click on that name and then whoop, I jump straight to that piece of audio.
Right.
Or I can very quickly jump to the transcript. And then after the meeting, you have all this analysis that you can do. Like, hey, what were the action items for me? The sentiment that I spoke about. Mm-hmm. All of those things are powered by AI. So when you asked just a moment ago, hey, what was this essence of you announcing here? It is about how AI is coming to meetings, to the meeting room,
right,
and those type of things.
So I love what you're talking about here. You're building this off of the end user experience and what they can get from these AI tools. But there's even larger value. For example, we were talking a little bit about governance. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, when you do AI, it is very important to who has access to things, who actually is essentially opting in and who is opting out. Maybe in the United States not that important, but over time I think it will get important here as well. But in Europe it's a very big thing, right?
Sure.
So there's just a new law that has been adopted as well, where there's very strict rules around that. And to then have a partner like Microsoft that offers not only the tech, but also offers the platform. The platform to administer that, to also be able to be self-empowered of like this, you're allowed to see, this is what you're not allowed to see.
Right.
Or you're allowed to use my voice, or you're not allowed to use my voice. Or later on when we are talking about presence, I will let you know where I am, but I can only let it know to those people, right? So your circle of trust, of like your direct team.
Right.
All those things are part of a platform. And that is the platform that we have been building and will continue to build out. And that is super, super important.
It is. It takes that end user experience and it brings it into an IT and even business value, right? While still protecting and respecting that individual. And I think that's really powerful. It's a powerful story there as well, too. Let's go ahead now and go to another area that's really exciting for me right now. You have been doing more and more work around those BYOD room situations. And this has been a challenge in the past. You and I have always talked about this in the past. Walk me through your thought process right now, what Microsoft is doing to solve some of these challenges in these BYOD rooms.
Yeah, there are two things that come to my mind. The first thing is like, although we are incredibly successful with the Microsoft Teams rooms, and we will continue to invest in that big time, there are still so many other rooms out there. Key thing though is that many people do not even know how many rooms there are.
Right.
So, and all those rooms are actually without AV maybe, or they have a suboptimal AV experience. Mm-hmm. So coming back just like what we discussed about AI, also in the BYOD experience, you need to put the end user first.
Right.
So if you are in a meeting room and you're bringing in your laptop should not be on the big screen. You should have your meeting on the big screen.
Right.
So this technology that we developed using the Teams client to actually understand, I'm in a room where many people come. This is a meeting room. This is actually a large screen device that I'm plugging in. Actually can lead to a more differentiated experience of the Teams client at that point in time. So the thing that we are showing on the show floor here is that when you plug in your cable of the BYD room, and by the way, it's assuming that you have one single cable or maybe you have multiple cables, but like, let's make that easy. You plug in that one cable. At that very moment, Teams knows, this is a room that I've seen many times before. And this is not your desktop, but it's in the back end. And I will come back to that in a moment. And then at that very moment, you can split out the Teams client. Everything that people remote should be seeing, you see on the front of room. Everything that you want to keep private, like all the IMs that are going on and so on, they will stay on your laptop. And that is what we call the BYOD experience.
Right. And it's worlds apart from what we used to do, where things were being shared, you had privacy concerns, you had all kinds of concerns.
Yeah, and finding this Windows P key or whatever it is in a Mac, right? So like, so many people are struggling, and then they're sharing all those awkward things that they are not supposed to share.
Right.
Like now we take that all and help them.
Well, frankly, people wind up actually using their laptops for multi-purpose during a meeting as well, taking
especially
notes.
If you're in Microsoft.
Yeah, doing some other things as well too.
Parallel processing.
Exactly.
Or whatever.
And so to still not to inhibit your workflow while you're still in a meeting is an important element. Now you were hinting at this though. It also has changed some value and benefit towards IT.
Yes.
And some data that IT is able to get back as well too.
Exactly, because well, we have I do not know what the latest count is that we announced, but we have over 300 million people that have Teams installed and are using it on a regular basis. That means there are 300 million plus gateways to a backend. So gateways to the Pro Portal, as we call it, the administration center that we are using. And when you plug in that cable, we send through the Teams client that signal to the backend. And there we start inventorying all those spaces that are having use from multiple people.
Right.
So I think the count is currently at 5. When more than 5 people start plugging in cables, we think like, hey, this is a shared space. And at that very moment, we make it visible. And we make it visible not only as, let's say, okay, hey, there's this screen and there's this speaker puck and this camera in that room, but we also allow you to pair it, either after the fact or upfront, by using the serial numbers and the identifiers that we have of those shared devices in that shared meeting room with, for example, a calendar in Exchange, a resource account. And all of a sudden now you have insights. You have insights not only about the space, not only about the devices that are in there, but also of what you're actually doing when you're using Microsoft 365, the services that we have.
Yeah.
And that cross-section of those 3 things is pretty unique. As a Microsoft, we can offer that. And that helps the people, especially not only the IT professionals, but also the decision makers, to right-size their investments. Because if you have a room that many people are using, BYOD and all the improvements, nice. But MTR, nicer.
Yeah,
right? So this is a room that is used a lot for online meetings.
And
Why
now
don't
you're-
I put an MTR in there?
Right, and now you're able to bridge that gap with data that supports the usage models, how many people are using it, how often as
Exactly.
well. That is great value. Well, Albert, this has been great. I love hearing about how you are taking the grouped shared experience and taking it to a new level. These new MTR solutions, incorporating AI into this as well, and also helping to drive visibility and a better user experience around those BYOD use cases. This is really great information. Thank you so much for sharing. I appreciate it.
You're most welcome.
Everyone, this is Craig from the Futurum Group. We're here live at Enterprise Connect. Thank you so much for viewing. We look forward to bringing you some more information. Take care.